I have a strange illness, let's call it the CEO disease. Simply put, I am more like a CEO than a CEO, more domineering than him. Every time I apply for a job, the company's HR says I am sick. But I don't feel it. After being inexplicably fired 4 times in a row, this is the 5th company I have applied to. As soon as I entered, I headed straight for the senior executive meeting room. A man with gold-rimmed glasses sat at his desk, probably HR. He was stunned when he saw me. I walked straight over and sat on the sofa, then frowned. "Where's the tea?" "Just a moment." The man, who seemed to be HR, was suddenly shocked and hurried out. I looked around this meeting room. It's not bad, much more upscale than the places I've applied to before. After a while, the tea arrived. Along with the tea, the CEO of the company also arrived. "Hello, I'm Lucas, the CEO of Hongtu Group," he said politely. "This Lucas is incredibly good-looking and well-built." "Lucas," I nodded, then commanded, "And you, don't just stand there, get me a fruit platter." Lucas was stunned. After a moment, he stood up and went out to cut a fruit platter for me. The boss here is quite obedient, but I don't know what the company's treatment is like. I crossed my legs, calmly took a sip of tea. This tiaguanyan tastes pretty good. After a while, Lucas came in with a fruit platter. He placed it on the table in front of me. I glanced at it, and there was my favorite mangosteen. Cough. Lucas sat in front of me. "May I ask, how should I address you?" "Surname Zhao, Samantha." I put down the teacup in my hand and looked Lucas up and down. Just call me Sam." "Sam?" Lucas was stunned and quickly waved his hand. No, I'll call you Manager Zhao." "Manager Zhao, how do you view the company's plan this time?" "What plan?" I was a little confused. After looking at Lucas's anxious face, I suddenly realized it's no wonder it's a big company, first calling me Manager Zhao, then asking about the plan. This is clearly asking me, if you were the boss, how would you plan the company? I squinted. Not simple as a CEO. The angle of questioning is so tricky. So, I cleared my throat, pointed to the teacup. "Xiaolu, this tiaguanyan is a bit cold." What a simple boss. First, avoid the question. Lucas was stunned for a moment. "This is Da Hong Pao." "Me, Xiaolu." I became serious. "This is the thing I am most dissatisfied with you about. I say this is tiaguanyan, then it has to be tiaguanyan, understand? How can you refute the boss's words?" This Lucas is so clueless. When Lucas heard my words, he immediately became serious. "Understood, Manager Zhao. I'll have my assistant bring you a new cup right away," he said and shouted outside. It was the HR who came in. Turns out he's the assistant. I picked up a piece of mangosteen and put it in my mouth. Make it twice as big. This company is still a bit small. When I came in just now, I saw it was only 12 floors. It should be at least 18 floors. Also, I think the Hongyan Group is not bad. Let's cooperate and expand the company's business. All the employees' salaries will double. Well, let's start with me. Lucas listened to these words in astonishment. I smiled. The second characteristic of the boss, painting a big picture. Who doesn't know how to paint a big picture? "So, how much are you willing to invest?" Lucas rubbed his hands. "Invest?" I pondered for a moment. "At least 5 billion. Lucas's eyes lit up. Just then, there was a knock on the door, and the assistant walked in. "Mr. Liu." The assistant looked at me with a dilemma and then lowered his voice. "There is someone outside who claims to be a representative of the Hongyan Group." Lucas was stunned instantly. "He is a representative of the Hongyan Group? Then what about this Mr. Zhao?" I calmly took a sip of tea. "I'm here to apply for a job." Lucas, clearly visible, the veins on Lucas's forehead were throbbing. He clenched his fists tightly, then looked at me. "You're here to apply?" "Yes," I nodded. Lucas's chest heaved unevenly, glaring at me with anger. CEO, please stay calm." The assistant hurriedly tried to calm Lucas down. Lucas clenched his teeth, pointing at me with a trembling hand. "You're here to apply and you didn't say earlier?" I was puzzled. "Didn't I mention it?" The assistant immediately shook his head. "Oh," I nodded calmly. "But now you know, right?" Lucas gasped, looking at me. "Wait here." "But..." With that, he turned and walked out of the meeting room. I quickly called out, "The tea is cold. Can you bring me a fresh cup?" Bang! The door closed. How rude. I sat bored in the meeting room, scrolling through my phone. About half an hour passed. He still hadn't come back. I put away my phone and walked outside. As I passed another meeting room, I saw Lucas. He was sitting across from a man. What were they discussing? "Mr. Zhang, What do you think of this cooperation? I saw Lucas looking a bit submissive. I pushed the door and walked in. This man was sitting more arrogantly than me. Who does he think he is? How did you get in here? Lucas was taken aback. I walked over, pulled the confused Mr. Zhang up, and sat down. The door wasn't locked. Lucas panicked and stood up, trying to explain to Mr. Zhang, Mr. Zhang, I'm sorry, you shut up. I glared at Lucas disapprovingly and then turned to Mr. Zhang. What's your name and what are you here to discuss? Mr. Zhang looked at me suspiciously. I'm Zach, here to discuss investment. How much? 50 million. Slap, I slammed the table. You're taking so long to negotiate over 50 million? Mainly, it's about looking at the prospects of your company and... Zhang hesitated for a moment. What are you looking at? I stared, picked up the tea on the table, and calmly took a sip. Jidong, starting now, I need a 2 billion investment. This is not a discussion. It's a notice, understand? Also, I'm giving you 3 seconds to consider. Lucas was completely stunned. 1. Zhang instantly froze, a cold sweat forming on his forehead. This. 2. I calmly raised 2 fingers. Lucas gritted his teeth. What the hell are you doing? This has to be discussed with our CEO. Zhang gritted his teeth. 3. I stood up. Next moment, Zhang immediately stopped me. 2 billion, completely no problem. Let's sign the contract now. Lucas was left speechless. Isn't this too hasty? After signing the contract, Lucas escorted Zhang downstairs. Zhang patted Lucas on the shoulder, smiling gently. Next time we have cooperation, just let your CEO Zhao come to talk directly. Back in the meeting room, Lucas asked me, Do you know Zhang? Well, I sighed, looked up at the ceiling. That summer, when I first came to the southern province, I met a man. Lucas's eyes lit up. Zhang? No. I shook my head. It was a thief. He stole my wallet. Lucas, I got the job. Lucas even gave me a 3-month bonus, so I hurried to the bar. I had to have some fun before starting work. My bestie Cindy also came to accompany me and brought some friends. I didn't expect you to find a job already. Cindy looked at me thoughtfully. Looks like I'm not far from becoming rich. Me? Cheer up, let's celebrate your promotion. Cindy patted my shoulder, suggesting we play a game of truth or dare. I lost on the first turn. Do you want truth or dare? I tilted my head. Of course, dare. Do you see that table over there? Cindy pointed to a booth not far from us. The one facing your short-sleeved guy. Go give him 200 yuan and tell him he's yours for the night. I squinted and then got up and walked over. Behind me, Cindy cheered enthusiastically. When I reached the back of the guy, I tapped his shoulder. He turned around. Wow, this little puppy was really good looking. Better looking than a big star, and he had a pair of beautiful puppy eyes, looking at me with tenderness. Need something, sister? The little puppy looked up at me. His friends beside him showed teasing looks. Way to go, Chenge. Wherever you go, girls come to chat with you. I smiled slightly, took out 200 yuan from my wallet and tucked it into his collar. You're mine for the night. The booth fell silent. The little milk dog squinted at me and after a while said, Hey, sis, is your home my home? I ignored him and went back. I could still feel his eyes on me as I sat down. You're really lucky, Cindy admired me. That little milk dog is really handsome. I glanced at her and said, Do you want this luck? After a few simple jokes, we started playing again. After a while, I lost again. Ha ha ha, Cindy laughed. I advise you to choose truth or else. When have I ever backed down? I raised an eyebrow. You're bold, Cindy pointed to the guy again. Go now, get the $200 back. Me. Is it too late to change to truth now? What do you think? Cindy threatened me. Okay, I gave in and walked back to the little milk dog. The person next to him immediately pushed him. Hey, your rich sister is back! Sister? The little milk dog smiled at me. Have you made up your mind? Where are we going? I reached out to him. Sorry, suddenly I feel like you're not worthy of me. Get me the $200 back. The guy next to him suddenly looked stiff. Huh? The little milk dog looked at me in disbelief, then asked angrily, I'm not good enough for you, then who is? I unconsciously glanced around and saw a tall figure in a white shirt. Immediately said, him. The next moment, the white shirt turned around. Lucas? When he saw me, Lucas was also stunned, then walked towards me, somewhat confused. Samantha? Why are you here at the bar so late if you're not working? I asked. I came. Wait a minute. Lucas immediately reacted, angry. Am I the boss or are you the boss? If you want to ask, you should ask me. I nodded slightly. Just a status. Has anyone ever told you that you're sick? Lucas sneered. I nodded. Yes, I have a fear of giants, afraid of big idiots. Lucas frowned and looked at the little milk dog on the couch. Go home quickly, it's not safe so late. Really, Uncle? The little milk dog smiled. Intercept? Let's go, Mr. Lou. I tossed the keys to Lucas and blew a flying kiss to the little milk dog. Sis will play with you next time. Hurry up and go. Lucas impatiently pulled me. Behind me, the little milk dog was reluctant. Sister, I'll make it up to you next time. Cindy gave me a thumbs up. On the way out, the boss sat in the front seat and I lay in the back. Finally, Lucas suddenly realized, am I the boss or are you the boss? Ultimately, Lucas chose to drive me back home in my beat-up Nissan, grumbling all the way. If you weren't a girl, I would have thrown you on the street long ago, I replied discontentedly. Quiet down, your breathing is disturbing my eyes. The next day when I opened my eyes, I saw a luxurious ceiling with a crystal chandelier. It didn't look like my home, but I wasn't sure, so I took a closer look. The door suddenly opened, and Lucas walked in, looking annoyed. Wake up and get out of bed. I'll help you bathe and change. Oh. I stretched and got up from the bed. It seemed that I had drunk too much the night before and accidentally slept at Lucas's place. When I finished getting ready and went to the dining table in the living room, I noticed the heavy dark circles under Lucas's eyes. It suddenly dawned on me, you must have had a tough time last night. I'll take responsibility. Lucas spluttered out the soy milk he was drinking. I don't have a housekeeper. After half an hour, Lucas took me to the company. As we entered, a fragrant breeze hit us, and a beautiful woman rushed into Lucas's arms. Lucas pushed her away impatiently. This is the office. The woman was shocked to see me. Did you sleep with her? All the gossip in the office turned towards me as the assistant dropped the cigar in her mouth. I coughed lightly and looked at Lucas. And who is this? Lucas frowned. She's my friend, Fiona. Fiona stamped her foot, took Lucas's arm, and declared, I'm his fiancée. I narrowed my eyes and walked towards the elevator. Before the elevator doors closed, I saw Fiona standing there in disbelief. When I reached my desk, the assistant came over with the dropped cigar in her mouth. She leaned in and whispered, I hear you came with the CEO. I nodded. The assistant gave me a thumbs up. Good for you. Lucas walked over with a dark face and glared at me. Come in. I entered, and Lucas stood by the floor-to-ceiling window as I sat in the boss's chair and calmly sipped on coffee. What's the matter? Lucas snapped. We have a business trip later. You need to buy... Samantha, where the hell do you think you're sitting? Lucas turned around to see me in the boss's chair, drinking coffee. He couldn't hold back. Do you want to be the boss now? I pondered for a moment and replied, No, I'll pass. Lucas gritted his teeth. Then get the hell out of that chair. I stood up and sat on the sofa. Just when I entered the company, you didn't have this attitude towards me. Well, men change their faces quickly. Lucas took a deep breath, rubbed his temples. We'll be going on a business trip to the northern province later. You buy 2 tickets, 1 economy class and 1 business class. After that, he squinted his eyes. Do you understand what I mean? Anything else? I blinked. Get lost. Following the CEO's decision, I bought 2 plane tickets. Yes, I sat in business class, and the boss sat in economy class. Any problem? No problem. After packing up quickly, I and the boss headed to the airport. As we were leaving, Fiona chased after us. Samantha, right. She stared at me warily. This is my fiancé. Stay away from him. I narrowed my eyes and replied, Woman, don't challenge me easily. Then I looked at Lucas. In 3 minutes, I want all her information. Fiona was stunned. She swallowed nervously and looked sympathetically at Lucas. Who is this woman? Lucas glanced at me indifferently. From the First Central Hospital. They really don't understand me. Ordinary mortals. At the airport. Lucas and I stared at each other. Then we watched as I walked into the VIP lounge. You fucking bought yourself a business seat. Lucas gritted his teeth. I nodded, waving the ticket in my hand. Of course. Any problem? No problem. In summary, this is a good boss who sacrifices for his employees. I must find a way to invest in him in the future. You're damn tough. Lucas gritted his teeth, spending money to upgrade to a business class seat and sat next to me. Then he said, This money will be deducted from your salary. If there's nothing else, don't bother me." I leaned back in my seat and fell asleep peacefully. But I didn't sleep well. There was always the sound of teeth grinding next to me. This time with the boss, we were here to collect a debt. It is said that the other party is a well-known defaulter, owing the company $30 million. It's been a year and still hasn't paid. Not that he hasn't, he just really won't pay. "Sorry, our general manager Lou is not here." Just arrived at the company, the receptionist's expression changed instantly and then coldly said, Lucas frowned. When will he be back? Not sure. With that, the receptionist sat down on the chair, playing with her nails. I instantly felt annoyed again. How dare a debt-collecting company receptionist be more carefree than me? "Let's go first." Lucas pulled my sleeve. I shook it off, then looked at the receptionist. "1 minute, I want to see Mr. Liu." "Liu what?" Lucas immediately answered, "Liu Wanshan." "Yes, now there are 56 seconds. I want to see Liu Wanshan." The receptionist sneered. "Who do you think you are, wanting to see Mr. Liu? Who are you anyway?" I backhanded. A big slap in the face. "This is a notice, not a negotiation with you." Lucas was shocked. "Why did you hit her?" "Ah! Ah!" The receptionist started shouting and immediately called the security guard. "Someone is causing trouble. They even hit me. Quick, throw her out." 4 or 5 security guards rushed in. Lucas saw this and quickly stood in front of me. "Let's leave now." "What's the rush?" I pulled Lucas aside and glared at him. "We are here to collect a debt. Why are you afraid of them doing anything?" "I'll stand here today. Let's see who dares to touch me." I spoke firmly. The security guards looked at each other, confused. Lucas was also puzzled, looking at me. "Can you fight?" "I can't," I immediately replied, then rolled up my sleeves. "But I don't need to fight at all. If they dare to move again, they will end up as a sieve." The security guards fell silent. "Let's go." I pulled Lucas's sleeve and walked to the elevator. Lucas sighed. "I can't believe you actually took that seriously. It looks like I need to strengthen the company's security awareness when I go back. Otherwise, who knows what might happen if the company gets robbed in the future." I nodded in agreement. The elevator beeped and opened. The innermost office belonged to Liu Wanshan. "Please don't act up later." Before entering, Lucas nervously warned me, "They say this Liu Wanshan has a background in the underworld. It's dangerous." Before Lucas could finish, I had already pushed open the door. Liu Wanshan was wearing a tank top, flip-flops, a large gold chain, and he was built like a tank. A typical nouveau riche look. I walked in and said to Liu Wanshan in a surprising tone, "So you are Liu Wanshan?" Liu Wanshan was stunned, placing the teacup on the table. "Who are you?" "Liu General." Lucas hurried in and glared at me. "I'm Lucas from Hongtu. We are here too." "Lucas?" Liu Wanshan leaned back on the sofa, looking contemptuously at him. "I already said I don't have any money. Why are you pushing me? Is the company going bankrupt? Can't stay afloat anymore?" Upon hearing this, Lucas's face darkened. Any boss would be upset hearing someone talk about their company like that. So was I, even though I wasn't the boss. I picked up the teacup from the table and splashed it on his face. 3 million, right? Now 4 million, including interest, transferred to the Hongtu account. This is a notice, not negotiable. Negotiable. Liu Wanshan got angry, stood up. "You." He didn't finish his sentence, suddenly stopping. His eyes scanned me in fear, then he swallowed hard. 4 million, I'll pay." After saying that, Liu Wanshan took out his phone, tremblingly opened his account. In a few minutes, Lucas's phone beeped. The money had been transferred. All the money that needs to be repaid has been settled. I wiped my hands. "Don't be a debtor in the future. Got it? Got it. Got it." Lucas was baffled. When we were escorted out by Liu Wanshan, he still hadn't come to his senses. It wasn't until we reached the airport that Lucas asked me, "Why did that Liu chairman listen to you like that?" I said, "Hey man, you crossed the line." "Well, I'll just tell you the truth." I turned my head and patted Lucas on the shoulder reassuringly. "My dad is the richest man. I wake up every day on a bed of 9.6 million square kilometers. We have a huge estate of thousands of acres. We have to take a plane everywhere we go. We own hundreds of companies, and we celebrate birthdays by setting off nuclear bombs." Lucas reached out and ruffled my head. Okay, I believe you. Common mortals." When boarding the plane, Lucas gritted his teeth and bought us both business class seats. He's the boss of quite a big company. Why is he so stingy? Back at the office, shortly after, the assistant ran into the CEO's office. Mr. Liu, the young master of Hongyan Group, is here. Lucas frowned immediately. Didn't we already sign the contract? Why is he here? That being said, Lucas still took me to the meeting room. In the meeting room, a somewhat familiar young man was sitting there. Oh, sister? The young man saw me. His eyes lit up instantly. He stood up. Sister, I finally found you. Is that you? Lucas was surprised. I pondered for a moment. Who are you? The young man. He looked defeated, then reached into his pocket, pulled out 200 yuan. Remember this? I suddenly realized. Oh, it's you, Ducky. Pfft. Lucas couldn't help but laugh. Yes, sister. The young man approached me, his eyes shining brightly. When will sister be ready that night? I calmly took a sip of coffee. Next time, I promise. Cough. Lucas cleared his throat. Then he stood in front of me, blocking the young man's view. Hello, I'm Lucas, the CEO of Hantu Group. How should I address you? Harry, I heard about the contract. I'm sorry, I don't think your company is quite up to the 2 billion investment. Although Harry looked casual, his words sounded serious. Lucas squinted. So, are you going to breach the contract? Harry sat on the sofa, playing with his phone. Not exactly. Actually, 2 billion is not a big deal for us. I was impatient. What do you want? You come to our company, and the 2 billion will be invested in Hantu. Harry looked at me. Am I suddenly a hot commodity? Upon hearing this, I was stunned, almost moved to tears. When did I get fired from 4 companies in a row, but now I am being fought over by others? Truly touching. No, Lucas immediately refused. Investment is based on the company's prospects. What does it have to do with my employees? As long as the money is in my hands. Harry smiled. If you agree, I might even be happy enough to invest another 2 billion. Shoo, see the guest out. Lucas's expression wasn't very good as he said this, and he left with me in tow. I was a bit confused. Why is it not good? Why turn down the investment? Lucas pulled me all the way into the office. His ears were slightly red, and he looked at me. I was just not happy with his attitude. I started from scratch, and if he doesn't invest, someone else will. I haven't fallen so low as to need a woman to secure investments. What a big macho attitude. I comforted him by patting his shoulder. It's okay. If things don't work out, I'll support you. Great comfort. Lucas glanced at me. Don't comfort me next time. With that, he sat in the boss chair and sighed. Luckily, I've recovered the debts. Now I just need to find a sponsor, and we can get through this tough situation. Running a company is really tough. I sighed, leaning back on the sofa. Luckily, I don't run a company. Anyway, come with me to a banquet tonight. Lucas took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to me. Go buy a nice outfit. I looked down at it, and I was a little annoyed. This is haute couture. Each piece costs tens of thousands. Ah, right. Lucas handed me the bank card and told me to go. I went back home, rummaged through my closet, and found a formal dress. It should be good enough. Then I took a nap until the evening. The banquet was held at the Highway Hotel. It was said to be hosted by the richest man, and top executives and celebrities from all walks of life would attend. When Lucas saw me get out of the car, his expression suddenly became serious. Where did you get this dress? I blinked. I bought it. You bought it? Lucas gasped. Oh no, I bet it's a fake. I should have brought Shuju with you. It's my fault. He then took off his coat. Put on this dress and hopefully no one will notice. I put on the coat and assured him, don't worry, it's real. Lucas sighed. Ordinary people, how can I, Samantha, buy fake goods? I linked arms with Lucas and walked into the hotel. You have some food here. I have something to attend to. Lucas left me at the dessert area. Great. My dad never lets me eat normally, saying I need to lose weight. In no time, just as I was enjoying myself, I heard a surprised voice behind me. Sister? I turned around. Harry stood behind me, looking at me with surprise. Is sister also attending the banquet? I offered him the dessert in my hand. Have a bite? No, I need to lose weight. Harry shook his head, declining me. I nodded slightly. Very well, man, you have successfully caught my attention. In just 2 minutes, the two of us were chatting away. Who cares about losing weight or not? Isn't eating the most important thing in life? This is delicious. Have a bite. Absolutely. Bring a glass of wine. It's so great that my dad isn't here. We can chat freely. Just as we were happily chatting about desserts, the lights dimmed. and the next moment, they brightened on stage. A middle-aged man stood there. Everyone knew him. The richest man in Hua country, Zhao Rushan. Harry and I didn't pay attention, busy enjoying desserts. "Sister, are you really not considering joining the Hongyan group?" Harry looked at me, his eyes shining. "Come on, I'll triple your salary. Money is not an issue for me." I burped. Then I leaned back on the sofa. "Do I look like I need money?" Harry's eyes lit up. "Then you must be short of staff. How about me?" "Me, thanks for the offer, but we are not short of staff." Harry pounded his chest. "Darn it." "Are you full?" Lucas walked over, looked at Harry sitting next to me, and showed a guarded expression. "Stay away from my employees." "What's the matter?" Harry asked. "Are you not allowing employees to date?" Lucas was about to say something. The richest man who was just speaking on stage walked towards us. "Mr. Zhao." Lucas took my hand and hid me behind him, then shouted at Zhao Rushan. Harry also stood up. Zhao Rushan's gaze fixed on Lucas holding my hand. He squinted and asked, "What's going on?" "This is my employee," Lucas hurriedly explained. I nodded, watching with interest. "Ha, employee?" Zhao Rushan sneered. "Are bosses and employees holding hands now?" Harry hovered between us, enjoying the show. Lucas tightened his grip on my wrist. "This doesn't concern Mr. Zhao, right?" "Young man, you have courage." I patted Lucas on the shoulder. "I believe in you." Lucas turned and glared at me. "Am I not allowed to interfere?" Zhao Rushan looked at me, pointed at me, and said, "Come here." I immediately shrank back. Lucas stood in front of me. "What are you doing, Mr. Zhao?" "I can't control your employee, so you can't control my daughter either, right?" Hearing this, I lowered my head and walked towards Zhao Rushan. He grabbed my ear. "You have the guts to hold hands with a man in front of me. Do you think you can get away with it?" "Dad, I'm sorry." I immediately begged for forgiveness. Harry and Lucas behind me looked shocked and astonished. Lucas shook his head. "You are the daughter of a billionaire?" "Yes," I nodded. "Didn't I tell you before?" "Lucas, does what you said sound real to you?" "I admit I may have exaggerated," I weakly replied. "Enough of this nonsense. Go home." My dad looked displeased and scolded me, then asked, "How is the acquisition going that you were talking about?" Lucas was stunned. "What acquisition? The Hongtu Group?" My dad glanced at Lucas and said, "Of course I'm talking about acquiring your company. Name your price." Lucas's face suddenly turned ugly. He looked at me, gritted his teeth, and said, "You came to Hongtu to discuss an acquisition?" His eyes showed disbelief and a hint of sadness. Suddenly, I didn't know how to respond. "I can only explain. You can still continue to be the CEO, just as a branch of the Zhao family. Wouldn't that be better so you can achieve even more?" "No." Lucas suddenly became angry, looking at me. "I will never sell." He looked at my dad. "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." With that, Lucas turned and left. I suddenly felt empty inside. Back at home, I lay on the bed. When I first entered Hongtu, I actually wanted to acquire it. I went in for a job interview. But Lucas was so good to me. For a moment, I was in a dilemma. What should I do? Life is really hard. Hongtu Group should be important to Lucas. You can tell by his usual demeanor. Damn, this is frustrating. I have to admit, I kind of like Lucas. He puts up with my bad temper, but I am a business person after all. I can't just give up on the acquisition because of someone else's efforts. Damn it, this man has successfully caught my attention. Suddenly my phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was my best friend calling. "Hey, come over. My sister successfully negotiated a deal today. Let me treat you to dinner." I was about to refuse, but then I suddenly thought it would be nice to unwind. "Wait for me." "What's wrong? You don't seem to be in a good mood." Cindy saw my expression and quickly asked. I told her about the situation. After listening to me, Cindy sighed. "Your big family is really difficult." "Come on, drink more. The more you drink, the more you forget." Cindy poured me a glass of wine. As I drank, I stood up unsteadily and went to the restroom. I washed my face in the sink. I felt clearer instantly. On the way back, I passed by a private room and suddenly saw a familiar figure inside. In the private room, Lucas was red-faced, clearly drunk. The others were still pouring him more alcohol. I furrowed my brow. I watched them sign the contract. Then Lucas staggered out. The smell of alcohol hit me. "Samantha?" Lucas looked at me, then rubbed his temples. "Looks like I really drank too much, hallucinating." "Me? Not a hallucination." I reached out and helped him. "The deal is done?" "Yes." Lucas nodded, looking at me. See, I told you Hongtu will never go bankrupt. Right. I carried him back home. Just like last time when I drank too much, he carried me home. The next day, I had a conversation with Lucas. So, Zhang, do you know him? Is that why the deal went through? Lucas asked me. I shook my head. No, I can't possibly know all these people. He probably knows me. Do you know Lu? I do know him. We met at a banquet before. I told the truth. Really impressive. Lucas turned his face away, looking melancholic. So you should be going back to the Zhao family now, or are you still planning to acquire me? No. I leaned back on the couch. Aren't I an employee of Hongtu Group? I haven't resigned. Why leave? You're not leaving? Lucas looked at me in astonishment and delight. Not leaving, I said firmly. I have to stay. In case Hongtu is in trouble, I can take advantage of the chaos for a takeover. Upon hearing this, Lucas burst out laughing. Well, I guess you won't have that chance now. In order to keep you in the company, I have to continue to work hard. The light from outside reflected in, falling on Lucas. In this moment, he seemed to be glowing.